Welcome back to another episode of Business Boon, a product of the Boon Chamber and hosted by Deep in Talent Strategies. This episode is powered by Boon REMC. Hi, I'm Shawna Lake, the founder of Deep in Talent Strategies.
And I'm Byrum, also with Deep in Talent Strategies.
Today, we're diving into a hot topic, the future of work, and we're joined by our guest, Karen Mangia.
Thanks so much.
Karen is joining us today since we have just kicked off 2025 to talk about some trends and predictions for our new year. So can you tell us, our listeners, a little bit about yourself and kind of how you've really come to start thinking about workplace trends?
Well, it was interesting because thinking back on workplace trends, I started working, perhaps like the two of you, about age 10 or 11, babysitting. When you think about it, there was the ultimate flexibility of hours. I guess it's entrepreneurship at its finest at an early age. And I can remember my first paid job. I worked in a music store that sold pianos and rented instruments to kids who were in band, and we sold sheet music. And I can remember getting my first paycheck, and it was less than I believed I was supposed to be paid at minimum wage. And I scheduled an appointment with the owner at the rich age of 12 or 13. Went into his office. I will never forget this. He's sitting behind this big oak desk with the old person looking painting of, his father behind him because it's a legacy business. And I said, I am not being paid what I was promised. And he cracks out this little data point about training minimum wage. Oh, we can pay you this lesser rate for the first, it was 60 or 90 days, let's say. And I said, I'm not willing to accept that, and I will walk off the job now. So I guess from that point forward, I've been advocating for this human rights and studying workplace trends. By the way, I did get all of the money. I got my back pay. I continued to work. I did not have to strike, picket out in front of the music store with the sign. As I rolled forward, though, what I discovered was how many different models of work there were and how frequently the model of work and the definition of what it means to be successful at work varies by who you're working for. In early jobs, I had bosses that mandated not only being in the office, being there at certain hours, even though I had all the tools and technology in the world to do that job from anywhere. And then as I progressed into more sales and sales leadership roles where success is being out with people, I found I was just as productive. And so it's interesting to me because this future of work and work trends and where we work and how we work and when we work has gone through a variety of different cycles. We all lived through, of course, the pandemic and then the post-pandemic, and now we're in this different era where we're seeing many, many more mandates around return to office with no real data to support that productivity and proximity are correlated.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had a job in a real estate office, and the owner is no longer living. So perhaps it's safe to say, similarly, there was this game where every other Friday was payday, and it was how long into the day do we do this little game of chicken where I wait to get paid and he waits in his office for me to come ask to get paid. Very uncomfortable. And I wouldn't encourage anybody to put, especially young workers, through something like that.
Yes, it's this power play. And that's what's so interesting about the dynamics of work is how frequently the power play is leveraged.
Yes.
We see this pendulum that swings back and forth between employer and employee. Just like you mentioned real estate, sometimes it's a buyer's market and sometimes it's a seller's market. And very often this configuration and style of what's normalized with work is this swinging pendulum between who is perceived to have more power, the employer or the employee.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. I remember my first paycheck was when it changed from $5.25 to $7.25. And my employer was very upset that they had to pay me the $7.25. So. And meanwhile, you're like, I'm in money. Right?
And it's actually still $7.25 in Indiana,
20-some odd years
in
later.
2025. Yes.
So I think babysitting maybe pays more than that now. Yeah.
If you want to find
maybe I will go back to babysitting. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And, Karen, I'm curious, maybe if you could tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you've come to be such a voice in, the workplace and knowing trends.
It's interesting when I think about it now, because I started out in university as an education major. And after one semester of being forced as part of class to work in a school with sixth graders, I discovered that was not my actual calling. My roommate jokes that I sat on the floor in our dorm room with the course catalog. Remember back when it used to be?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, she was an architecture major and I can't draw. So I skipped art and architecture and next was business. I'm like, sounds great. But I took a twist on that. I did international business. So very riveting when you think about that. Clearly, I was always exposed to offices and work. My grandfather had a finance and insurance business for many years. My dad was in the banking industry, and I routinely went to work with them. And in fact, we played work at home. So it was kind of a normalized thought process for me. Oh, I will have some kind of knowledge worker type job, most likely, as I get older. And when I think about it now, leaving international business and then looking forward to tech, I'm often asked, why tech? Now it feels more normal.
Sure.
When I was in university, it wasn't the most typical path at that point in time to go on and get a master's degree in information and communication sciences. And I'm asked how I got into that. And it's really the old-fashioned way. Runaway bride. That's right. I thought a career in tech was better than getting married. And it turns out I was right about that. I mean, if you're marrying the wrong person, potentially. And so what was so fascinating to me on this journey is I started in project management, and early in my career, frankly, it did help to go into the office. I didn't know my job. I didn't have a network of people to ask questions, and I think we can all relate to that. Yes. You start a new job, you change careers or professions. There is a value to building that internal network. There's a value to learning from other people. And then I progressed into these, various sales roles. I went on to Cisco and then on to Salesforce. And I experienced such a vast range of, from micromanager all the way to a leader I had at one point that I'm certain had no clue ever what I did. There was absolutely no structure, guidance, or direction. It was like, you're an adult, do some work, we'll pay you. And I thought, isn't this interesting, this range of possibilities? And where I really got fascinated with work and advocacy and having a voice in that space was first starting with advocating for diverse people in the workplace, speaking up for people who felt like they couldn't speak up for themselves. And then that morphed into, at the time of the pandemic, when everyone had to start shutting down their offices, I was on the work from home task force for Salesforce to help figure out how to send people home. And at the same time, I started writing this blog about working from home. I thought, people need tips. Yeah. There are lots of people who've never had to do their job from any place other than a physical location with other people around them. I thought I could be of service. And that was really where the journey started. And the blog was going crazy, of course, because people were looking for ideas. And at the time, I had just submitted a manuscript to Wiley for a book called Listen Up, How to Tune Into Customers and Turn Down the Noise. And I had submitted it. I was talking to my editor 2 weeks after I submitted it. And I was asking her, hey, what's it like to work from home in the publishing industry? And she said, well, it's really challenging. We've never done it before. Our processes aren't set up for it. We're not used to collaborating this way. We're used to, we all get in a room together and, what titles do we need and how are authors doing and what's trending and what should we go commission? We have no motion to do this virtually. And I said, that's so funny. I've been writing this blog about working from home and it's going crazy. And she said, that's great. Do you think you could write a book about that? And I laughed and said one of the dumbest things I've ever said, which was in my sleep. You cannot write a book in your sleep. And she said, could you write the book in 2 weeks? Oh, well, I said, no, I could not. And she said, how about 30 days? And I said 2 words that changed everything. Why not? Well, that book about working from home came out in August of 2020. And that really catapulted me into having a platform and a voice.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted ideas. That begat what became the book after that, which was Wall Street Journal bestseller, Success from Anywhere, Create Your Own Future of Work from the Inside Out. Because people came back to me and said, so we're not working from home. And at the same time, we're not going back to the way we always did things. Now what?
Yeah.
What do we do? And so again, it was another evolution of thinking. And I think underneath of this, and part of my passion is understanding what motivates and makes great leaders. And this journey of office and working is such a great example of great leaders change their point of view as the context changes. They absolutely reserve the right to edit themselves because the context shifts, and they realize that what made you a very successful and effective leader before might not make you a successful and effective leader now, and so they evolve. Just like this perspective of where, when, and how we work.
It's good to know that Boon REMC is always there. For generations, we've powered the growth of our neighborhoods, businesses, and everything in between. Today, our commitment is stronger than ever to provide affordable energy you can depend on and keep you connected to what matters most, now and for generations to come. Boon REMC is a Touchstone Energy Cooperative, your source for power and information.
Yeah, it's such a powerful story. Congratulations on the success of multiple endeavors. And that statement, why not? And just how that catapulted you to where you are. So for leaders who are listening right now and maybe thinking, why not? Or all the pressures that they have on themselves and their business, if they could just lean into why not, what do you predict might be some of the things that they could embrace in 2025 and beyond?
Why not puts you on a path to new possibilities? Because what that question invites is challenging the way that you've always done things and stepping into the art of the possible. Something that happens so often is we put success or goals or objectives, operational objectives for the year on the calendar as if success shows up at Tuesdays at 4. If only we put it there, and also schedule some sort of ops review or career conversation. The reality is, why not says in every single moment, what could we try that would open us up to these miniature experiments and shifting what we think were absolutes or firm boundaries that maybe we could consider. It's sort of another way of saying, what else could this be? And that always serves us because lots of people can contribute ideas. It puts you in the path of seeing something new solutions to old problems, new possibilities, new ways to go to market, new opportunities, as opposed to, we have the plan for the year, we will perfectly execute the plan for the year, and we will not deviate no matter what. So we finish the plan and check everything off the list. So many businesses are optimized for that motion.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So perhaps the goals that people wrote in December should be revisited?
Yes. And what I would observe is if you make it to the end of a year and you've accomplished everything on your list, as an individual, team, or organization, your goals were not lofty enough. And if you didn't evolve them at all, you're probably not responding to market signals very effectively. Your customers certainly don't stay the same for 12 months, or at least ours don't.
Yeah. Thank you. Good.
So how do you think businesses, especially smaller businesses in our community or wherever the case may be, can stay competitive with these changes that are happening? Because it impacts them so significantly.
What I've discovered going from big enterprises like AT&T, Cisco, and Salesforce to now being president and chief strategy officer of a startup called the Engineered Innovation Group is the truth of the statement you just made. Inside of enterprises especially, there is a normal way of being and operating. And as I look back now on all of these supposed innovation and, starting with the blank sheet of paper, there's really no such thing inside of a very huge company, especially a publicly traded one. The reality is you have to make money, you have to put up results. Wall Street has to love you, otherwise there are serious problems. So you are optimized to be efficient and productive with miniature forays into minor innovation. And that's okay. That's how that system is designed to work for the most part. In the world of the startup and the small business, this is where instead of executing someone else's playbook, you have more autonomy to create your own playbook.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered from living in this world is it's not for everyone. So first and foremost, you have to be honest with yourself. Do you like to follow a plan and have perceived predictability and a perceived sense of safety and security, meaning your job somewhat feels usually more safe and secure when you know what it's largely going to be like for the year, how much you're going to make, what you're going to do, and that you'll probably have a job absent some massive downsizing, is a different mentality than I will go create something and sit with the risk that it might shift in 2 weeks into something I don't enjoy, or the risk if you're going to a startup, this may or may not make it. There are different profiles of people, and critically important. This is the creating the future from the inside out. You must know yourself. If you have a lot of caregiving responsibilities and you're having health problems and you don't handle stress well and you don't like risk, maybe a startup is not right for you right now. Now, maybe later when you realize I have 4 more years to work and I've saved all the money I need, you think, I've always wanted to try that, I'm going to do it. Great. We have some other people who love autonomy. They do not really love to be told what to do. They don't have an operational bone in their body. Something with a startup or small business might be a much better fit. So I think it starts with knowing your work style, how much structure you want and need, how comfortable you feel sitting with uncertainty, because there's a lot more uncertainty in that startup and small business world. And I think it affects as well the leadership style that it takes to be effective. It's different in those scenarios.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That risk factor is, I think it also can depend on where you are in your life. And like you said, having young children myself, it is a risk, but it's a risk that has great reward, at least for me.
I agree. And the other thing I've discovered is choosing to go into a startup and scale up environment later in my career has served me well. And I hope the organization also, because I have more skills and experiences to draw from.
So
Yes, at 24 or 25, I would have had all the energy in the world to go attack it and run toward it. Now I have more skills and experience to contribute. You've just seen more things. You've also lived through more challenges in your own personal life and realized you're going to be okay. And I think that helps a lot. I mean, you can't ride the roller coaster of, we're going to make it big, we're going to go to business, we're going to make it big. It's like you have to be able to find your own center. And at least for me, that's a little easier as we get older and have more experiences. And you've seen more 2001s and 2008s and boom times, and you just have more skills to draw from and a bigger support network and mentors and sponsors as well.
yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
Agreed. We have the opportunity to work with a lot of startups and founders in the work that we do. And I do feel like at this phase of my life, I can be a calming influence for them. To say, I don't know what it's going to look like for you in a month or 6 months, but I do know that there is another side of this. Because I have lived long enough to know that you will come out on the other side of this. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but just to have that experience is helpful. And I would not have served them in that same way even 10 years ago.
Exactly. That horizon view is critically important. And also, I love that you said the calming effect. It is an environment that lends itself to the adrenaline rush to the degree sometimes I think people no longer realize they are just constantly moving and living in this adrenaline and cortisol all the time. And when they get glimpses that they might be coming down from the high, it's a very strange feeling. And it's as much a prioritization adjustment as it is an emotional adjustment. And a lot of people need a coach, a mentor, someone in HR, a trusted person to help guide through that. You know, you're going to be okay on the other side of things. You will work again. You may start another business. It's going to be okay. And having that longer term perspective, because in a startup world, everything is the next 5 minutes, the next deal, the next raise,
Yes.
the next thing in front of you.
Absolutely. Yes. One of the things that we are asking all of our guests is, what is something that you wish you had known earlier in your career?
Trust the process. I was thinking about this driving here today, and maybe it's because it's 2025 and the beginning of the year, everyone goes on a diet. And so everyone wants immediate results after completely destroying their body with food and alcohol for the holiday season. I think a career is like that also. I know I felt, and I hear from lots of people I coach, an impatience for success and impact and for it all to come together. And if you trust the process, you keep gaining new skills, discovering your strengths, learning about the kinds of work environments and leaders that put you in a position to excel and they help you maximize and realize your potential. And you keep building your network and being generous and not burning bridges. There is a point later where it all comes together. I think about now how much time and energy I wasted worrying about or trying to make something happen. The reality is just keep planting seeds, keep building your network, keep doing good work, keep doing work that you enjoy, that you're good at, that people will pay you for. And eventually, in a longer term horizon, on a date and time you do not get to pick or choose, you'll start to see things click and come together. And that impatience, I find for so many people, drains a lot of mental and emotional and even physical energy. It eventually works out. It eventually clicks. Trust the process.
Thank you for that.
That's great.
So what's one critical step that business leaders can take right now to start preparing themselves for the workplace for the future?
I think about making room for possibility. And here's why I say that. We think that we'll think about the future and free up time to experiment and innovate and have all these new possibilities tomorrow. Except that tomorrow never gets here because we are also busy. We don't have time. The first thing that leaders can do is to create space. And I want to share with you 3 challenge questions and a bonus question I use and coach others to do the same when I look at my calendar and my to-do list. And this works equally well personally and professionally because we all have to create space. You can't have this wonderful new idea or see the future of work differently from a chaotic, busy, back-to-back meeting, sometimes 2 or 3 in the same time slot, stage. 3 questions and a bonus question. 1, does it have to be? 2, does it have to be me? 3, does it have to be me right now? And bonus question for the win, for whichever one will love you. Does it have to be a meeting? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Even when we can free up time in 5 and 10 minute and ultimately 30 and 60 minute increments, we create space for new thoughts that inform new ideas, that inform new possibilities, that inform new paths forward.
Yeah.
That is going to stay with me forever. Thank you so much.
Space.
Yes. Tell our listeners how they can connect with you further, find your materials, and to the extent you want to share maybe your latest work that's a little more personal.
Yes, thank you for that. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I post new content regularly, including every single Sunday. I post about the Sunday dinner that I cook and enjoy with my almost 101-year-old first-generation American World War II veteran grandfather. And
Amazing.
having published 4 books, strangely, people still ask, when is your next book coming out? And I started thinking about the fact that I don't think I have anything left to say in long form at this point. I've written down all the thoughts I have. So I thought, what a great opportunity to write down someone else's thoughts. And what I realized is the person who's taught me the most in my life, personally and professionally, is my grandfather. And so I had started posting on LinkedIn every Sunday, and people started gravitating toward this content, sharing their stories, asking questions, enjoying his wisdom. And so we came out with a book together called Sundays with Salvatore, 52 Recipes to Cultivate Conversation, Connection, and Community. And he wrote the afterword to the book, and 52 chapters, 52 weeks in a year. Each chapter includes stories, a piece of his wisdom, a little thought prompt or journal prompt or conversation prompt to consider, and then one of our family recipes along with photos.
It's beautiful.
And you can find all 5 of my books on Amazon, of course, where the whole world of products and services is available.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, so much. I'd love to meet your grandpa, Salvatore. He sounds like an amazing man.
He is absolutely amazing and still unbelievably cantankerous, which is so much fun.
Well, thank you again, Karen. Thank you all of the listeners who are here today. We'll be back next time with more insightful conversations, and we hope that you tune in and you keep growing and leading with purpose. Thank you.